You're listening to Community Radio, CKMS, Radio Waterloo, 102.7, 946 on the Rogers Digital Network. You can find us at
Good morning, Waterloo Region. It is Monday, the 16th of November. Woke up this morning, showered, shaved, but I think my guest today, Dan Walsh, hasn't shaved in years. We'll be talking to Dan Walsh in a little bit. In the meantime, let's listen to Universal Diesel by Dan Walsh from his Virtuoso album. That's Dan Walsh from his Virtuoso album. But Dan tells me that's not so.
So I'm gonna. Good morning, Robert. First of all, if you'll notice the title of the record, it's actually titled Virtuoso.
Virtuoso.
And I usually like to hit about 87% good notes on any given night, so I've left myself a door there. Virtuoso to me sounds kind of pretentious, and I'm just another guitar player in a sea of many. So Virtuoso.
Virtuoso. So I've got you completely miscategorized on our digital playlist here.
Yeah, no, I'm half-assed. You just call me the half-assed guy, right? You know, I'm not Virtuoso at this point.
Virtuoso. Dan Walsh, welcome to CKMS Community Connection.
Thank you, Robert.
Mentioned your beard. That's been a good marketing tool for you, hasn't it?
Well, I'll tell you, this started out as way back. I believe I'm going to test my memory, but I think sometime around 2009, I was on the road in Texas, and if I've got this right, I believe I was in San Marcos, Texas, and I'd been on the road hard for 10 or 15 years, probably averaging 250 shows a year, another 50, 60 travel days. We were a hard working band in those days, and frankly, I just got lazy, and so I'm not going to shave, and then I just got really lazy, and then I realized, hey, wait a minute, I can do this, and so I've been growing this since around 2009.
2009.
Listen, man, it's not getting any longer. It's just getting a little grayer.
And it's a good length there. It's the size of down to your belly button at any rate.
Well, here's my deal, right? I figure if the music business completely falls apart, if I can get $1 for every ZZ Top joke that's been made by every person I've met in the past 10 years, I would already been retired 5 years ago.
Yeah, beards worked well for the ZZ Top guys.
It sure did.
You're a guitar virtuoso. Regardless of what it says on the album cover, you're a guitar virtuoso.
I can give you 5 or 6 different band leaders that would disagree with that, but thank you.
How long have you been playing guitar?
Man, I started playing, honestly, when I was a kid, super young kid, I wanted to be a drummer. And this was back, maybe I can remember like when I was 9 or 10 years old, and I wanted to be a drummer. And I think that my parents had somewhat of a different idea. But at the same time, one of my parents' friends, his name was Norm Fergie, had this beautiful old Fender Stratocaster. And he wasn't much of a player, but he had this guitar, and he'd bring this guitar to my family's in those days, the families would get together at night and play cards and drink, and the kids could stay up a little bit and hang around a smoky kitchen and watch him play. And he would let me play this guitar, and I couldn't play it at all then, but I really enjoyed it, and I found something there. And so that was, I think I was maybe around 12 years old, and then my parents sent me off to the conservatory to learn how to play the guitar, and then it just took off from there.
But you're not just playing guitar; you're a multi-instrumentalist.
Well, sure. Because as I've gone along, like I guess I've been very fortunate in the fact that I can play the drums. I mean, I played the drums on my first record, even though I've been a drummer. I played in drums in a band as a filler. For a filler a few times, but also like I developed a love later on in my early 20s for the slide guitar. Uh-huh. And of course, with a slide guitar, there's multiple different instruments that go with that: lap steels, Weizenborns, anything with strings, basically. And so essentially, I just picked up on all of them, and I'm basically, you say virtuoso, I say master of all, or jack of all trades, master of maybe one or two.
Really? It's got to be something. I mean, I've never mastered anything with strings on it at all.
I'm still working on it, my friend.
Yeah. You teach?
I do. I've had, of course, things before in the before times.
Yes.
I had some younger students. I don't have like a school. I take on students that I can, provided my schedule allows for it. This past 8 months or so, I've done a few online lessons now. This seems to be moving over to the online thing. I've got a fella from India that's taking lessons. The cool thing about all this and about the internet is we can actually take lessons from all around the world.
Right.
So I do not many. My schedule is pretty busy, and I don't like to take on. I think the detrimental thing you can do to a student is take him on and then not be available for him. Right. So I'm very careful. I usually tell the guys, listen, I can give you a few lessons, then you're on your own for a little bit, and then come on back if you want, as opposed to a regimented schedule.
What are the time zones? India is like 12 hours
9.
apart. 9 hours?
He's 9. Wherever he is, he's 9. So you've got to work all this out, right?
Yeah.
Thailand is 12. Where he is in India, I can't remember the name of his city, but he's 9. He's a new fellow that just came with me. There's another fellow from the Ukraine that has taken a couple of lessons, right? So it's kind of interesting.
Cool. And what does that do to your schedule? I mean, performing is generally an evening thing for you, but does that give you extra time to do the lessons at other time zones?
Like I said, in before times, it was tough. Right now, this is like all the times in the world. Like, I mean, I can take a lesson. Basically, at this point now, I've got a couple of restaurant gigs here and there. See, normally in before times, I would actually be on the road a lot. Even though the last couple of years I haven't had a new record, I've played a lot within Ontario, a couple of trips to Asia. A couple of festivals here in Canada, but mostly the last couple of years. Usually what happens with me is I'll put out a new record, and then I'll go out on the road hard with that record for the year if I can.
I think it's pretty typical.
Pretty typical, right? It's not much of a strategy, but it's kind of what I do. And then once the record sort of slows down, I'll just start playing local again. And I'm kind of getting sucked into that whole thing because I kind of like it. Kind of like getting home at 8 o'clock at night and being in my bed, even though I love the road. I'm kind of liking this too.
Yeah.
You know? So.
And you've been performing online as well.
I've done a couple of online streams. More so, I've done some festivals, like where they've done some online festivals where they've had a command center and people from all over the world are playing. Right. And I've done that. I've done a couple of streams. I'm finding that one of the troublesome things for me with live streaming right now is very, very saturated. And there's a group of musicians that are taking it totally serious. You know, they're getting the mixing boards in, they're getting quality sound. Yeah. There's other guys singing to the phone. And it's wonderful. Everybody's entitled to do what they want, but I mean, you know, if it's music, it's not quite about how we look, it's more about how we sound. So I've been very careful with the live streams. You know, I've done a couple of them. More so, I just tend to pop on live at Facebook and try to promote my Guitars for Kids program, play a song or two, right? Over the winter, we'll be doing more. I mean, it appears as we're going into some restrictions here, so I don't think we're going to get much live music this winter. So I'm working that out.
I think we're probably not going to have many guests in the studio either. You know, things are looking
the way it's going.
Shut down again, exactly. Yeah. One of the things I noticed about your Facebook stream, you've got the events listed there. You've got more cancellations on your Facebook events list than you've got actual performances.
Well, you see, and so this is what happens, right? There's a reason I'm doing this, and people have asked about this too, right? First of all, this is digital history. It's going to show 2020, right? Of course, the way my site works, like I don't have a manager anymore. Like I'm pretty much on my own at this point. I run my own, as we all do. I like it this way. I have an agent, but no manager. And so my dates are automatically uploaded to a website when I put them in my calendar.
Oh, good.
Right.
Good.
But also this gives me a history to show the government, you know, and I'm not getting political here, but I'm one of the guys who had to go and live in Serbia this summer for a while, and now I've had to rotate over to the new CRB because I'm a self-employed. Like I run a business. The Beard Zone is basically I'm a business. I'm a small time.
Yes.
So this is allowing me to show the government that hey, we did this and it's been taken away through no fault of my own, and I'm not crying about it, but it gives them, when I file for, I've never been on unemployment. I got to tell you, I've never been on unemployment. It's the first time. I'm 55 years old and I'm on a form of unemployment, and this gives me that history to show them that I'm trying, that I had the gigs and they've been canceled. So that's how I'm showing. If we go through an audit next year on our taxes, that I did this. So that's why.
Okay. Well, it's a little sad to see that, actually, you know, because
it is sad. People are sad at all. It's also a reminder, like think of it this way. It's kind of sad to see it, you know, but also be positive because it's going to come back, right? We're going to get back at it. So this is just a little blip in our history, and it should be showing as that.
I have to tell you, I never thought, I'm not much of a concert goer, not much of a, bar hopper listening to music. I love that stuff.
Right.
But now that it's not there anymore, I miss it.
Right.
So it's definitely something that I think was going to pick up in spades once the restrictions all lift, and you can get back on the road, back doing some live music, and I think there's going to be huge crowds out there because there's a gap. We have to catch up from the last 6 months, 8 months.
I think you're right. I think live music will never die. I think, and again, to turn this back to the live stream thing that you were discussing, there's no energy there. That one of the hardest things I found is to sing into a phone and then say thank you everybody, and then when you're in a room, there's energy there that can only be created in that moment at that room. That's what I miss. I miss the energy of people being there, all with one like-minded purpose to enjoy the music. Singing to a phone makes that difficult.
Yeah. If you're in a restaurant bar type situation, not everybody's paying attention to the music you're playing. I mean, I hate that. I've been to places where the performer is giving their all, and yet there's people just chatting away, completely ignoring the music, and I came for the music. So
that's going to be something that's always going to be a situation in the business. What separates that is a $20 ticket. I say this like I say $20. What people say $20 for a ticket. I'm going, but at least this way it weeds out the people who don't care. Now, obviously, we're not going to charge $20 for a ticket at a restaurant. And a restaurant, we need them. So for me, it doesn't bother me. This is how I look at it. Anytime I play a restaurant, if there's 4 or 5 people at a table, I don't look at them. I look at the floor. And even though they might be talking, if they're tapping their feet into the rhythm of what I'm playing, they're listening to me, and that's good enough. It's not about ego. It's just about, am I getting through? And a lot of people will try to fix that with volume. Volume doesn't fix that. Volume makes the audience louder. So I always go the opposite. Turn it down a little bit, and when a PA gets turned down a little bit, people start listening more. Right? So you look at it. There's things. But you're never going to get through it's the way it is. History dictates that not everybody's into live music, but they're into being at the scene. Some people would rather just say they were there than actually remember what song a musician played.
Ever been to the Moonshine Cafe in Oakville?
I have. John Marlett, matter of fact, that was one of John's first guys down there way back in 2006 when he started, like within that first couple of months.
A friend of mine helped start that up, I think, Paul Young.
Okay, right.
Yeah, and we were there for a couple of celebrations of his and his passing away party.
Right.
The owner of the place, John
Marlett,
said, actually stood up in the middle of the performance and said, people have come here to perform for you. Pay attention or get out.
Well, John is one of those unique individuals, and the country has one of these guys in every town. John's a lover of music, and he's worked very, very hard to create a listening environment in that room so that when you go there, you know what you're getting there. He's established that, and that's why the Moonshine is for a singer-songwriter or musician is just a step up from the restaurant because people are actually there for you, not for the cheeseburger. Right.
And the cheeseburger's on a barbecue out in front of the building.
So he's got such a great place. He booked it. So I back in 2006, I had just left Fred Eaglesmith Band. I was out on the road with Rami Mays from Winnipeg. We had made a record with Gurf Morlix. Gurf was a friend of mine from Texas. He did, not to do a bunch of name dropping, but Gurf did those early Lucinda Williams records like Car Wheels on a Gravel Road. Gurf Morlix is very, very important to the Americana rock and roll scene. So Rami and I were out on the road, and I had just met her. We'd only played 2 or 3 shows, and I was playing dobro in those days. And John Marlett took us on, and that's when I met John. And we had a blast at that show, and those were our drinking days, and John was having a good time too. But that was 16 years ago now, and he's still hanging in there. He's a legend, if you ask me.
Probably right. 'Cause, I've been to the Moonshine more often than I've been to venues here in Waterloo.
Well, and because it's a listening room, you'll notice he has a step up of talent there. Not to categorize a talent, but there's a different class of singer-songwriter that comes through his building. right?
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah.
I've put a few of their CDs up on our digital library.
Yeah.
So, promote the local talent. And
It's not unlike Kevin Doyle with the old Boathouse. You remember back in the day, Kevin was the same way. Like he's a little more of a rock and roll room, but he brought in next up, like all the touring bands. He was the guy we stopped at between John Marlett and Kevin Doyle.
So I have been to the Boathouse more often than I've been to the Moonshine, but...
Yeah, well, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. How are you for playing in a radio studio? Is that going to...
Well, it's not so much about the radio studio as it's Monday morning, Robert. It's 11 a.m. It's not the most rock and roll day. But yeah, I've got my guitar here, of course.
What have you got lined up for us here?
I think what I'll play a song. I'll play a song off my. What record was it on now? Oh, the Loop record. I'll play a song off the Loop record. Okay. This is one that works good with my old National guitar. I thought I'd come in today with a steel body guitar. Mostly because I'm going deaf and I can't hear very well anymore. I gotta have these loud guitars.
I can crank up your headphones some if you need.
Yeah, but this is a song called Bricks from Loop. I don't really do it this way all the time, but hey, we're skinny and naked here in the studio, and you all out there can decide what that looks like. You can't build a house if you can't afford the bricks. And the people on the top, they keep playing tricks, and you gotta work for yourself. You gotta think for yourself. You gotta own your own self, and you gotta do it by yourself. It don't matter how much money that you got, there's always gonna be the people that have not, and you gotta work for yourself. You gotta own your own self. You gotta do it by yourself. You gotta work for yourself. The more time that you spend will be the less time that you got. It's better to help your friends than to fight the man on top. And you gotta work for yourself. You gotta think for yourself. You gotta own your own self. And you gotta do it by yourself. When you find your bricks, you can finally build your house. And the friends that you made, they'll be sure to help you out. 'Cause they took the time they had and they thought for themselves. And you gotta work for yourself. You gotta think for yourself. You gotta own your own self. And you gotta do it by yourself. You gotta work for yourself.
Dan Walsh here on CKMS Community Connections. Bricks from a Looper album?
From Loop.
Loop.
Loop. L-E-W-P. It's a line echo weather pattern. It's an incoming storm.
Ah, okay.
Little, and
the
also,
things you learn on the radio.
And also, I was doing a lot of looping on that record.
Okay, that's what that is. Okay, I saw the LEWP on some of your online stuff.
Right.
Didn't think of pronouncing it as loop.
Loop, right. Just like virtuoso, my friend.
Yes.
You got to really look at the words.
Just to be clear, you have no looping equipment here. This is strictly an acoustic guitar you're playing.
This is me with a 2006 National Replicon 14. that Alfie Smith suckered me into buying. If you know Alfie Smith, and he could be listening here, I wound up giving him a guitar and some money for this beautiful instrument. So this is for those in radio land. If you obviously you can only hear this. If you know the album Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms,
yes,
this is the guitar on the cover of that record. Right. Although his is an original Replicon 14, mine's a reissue.
Okay. And it's got some nice etching on the body.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we got I'll show you. I mean, but yeah, it's got that. I mean, the Replicon 14 was designed with the Hawaiian sort of the palm trees and stuff engraved on it. It's just this is one of their higher models. As a newer reissue, they're expensive.
Yeah, I'll bet.
But man, you can tell. You know, a lot of guys say, well, I can get a resonator guitar for $600, and I'm going, you can, but there's always going to be. That sounds to me. That's $600 sounds like $600. Let's just put it that way.
It has a real distinctive sound. Is that the resonator doing that, or the material of the body?
I believe. I mean, so there's always going to be mojo involved, right? But I believe it's both. I believe that there's the cone in here, the combination of the cone and the alloys in the actual brass. I believe this to be a brass body. That's plated brass, but the alloys in the cone is a combination of both, and how the setup is to make it sound, and they all sound different. I mean, Chris Whitley, one of my favorite guitar players, who recently he passed a few years ago. He and I were friends. He had a couple of old Nationals, and they sounded different than all the other National guys that I had ever met. Like they all sound different, and they all have a unique, cool sound. And I'd like to think the mojo is that sound basically melds with the player. Like after you play it for a little bit, that becomes your sound. This guitar won't sound like this in anyone else's hands other than my own.
Right.
Right. I believe that's.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. My father-in-law, Lynn Russell, had a beat-up old guitar that I think he paid $50 for. It sounded great. And he had a $3,000 guitar that he said was too stiff and hard to play, and never touched the thing.
Yeah, it's pretty funny how that goes. You know, I remember years ago we were on the road with the Fred Eaglesmith band, and we were doing. Delbert McClinton would have these cruises that he did every year out of Florida, like on Florida side, that would take us down through the Caribbean, right? And of course, you know Delbert McClinton, obviously. He, and of course, huge in Nashville, so he would have all of his friends come on there. People like John Hyatt, our band was on there, and so it's funny. One year we were on there, and the cruise ships are loose for drinking a little bit. So I was hanging out with Stephen Bruton, and Stephen Bruton was actually Chris Christopherson's guitar player for a lot of years, and he had an original Dumble amplifier. So for all the guitar players out there listening to this right now, you'll know the Dumble amplifiers. This is one that Stevie Ray Vaughan played. Those amps are currently valued, if you can find one, they're selling for about $150,000 right now. So I had to try a Dumble amplifier from Stephen Bruton, and Stephen was an amazing guitar player. And I plugged into that amp thinking I'm going to sound like Stephen Bruton. I didn't sound anything like Stephen Bruton, nor did I sound like $150,000 that day. So I think it's that thing, you bond with an amp and that becomes your thing, where someone else plays it, it's a totally different tone.
So it's the guitar, it's the amplifier, it's probably the room where you're playing.
And the hands.
And the hands.
And the hands and the mind, right? Whatever you're channeling down to your fingers, and that's the mojo part of it.
Yeah. So you have off days and good days, and hope to do all your recording on the good days.
I think typically, if you're going to be honest with yourself, most of the musicians are mostly off days. And then when you get that really good day, that's the one that we strive to keep hitting. That's why we keep doing this for years and years and years, to find that one time that we hit the note.
Yeah. So you've been playing for many years. Are you still taking time out to practice, to run the scales, to...
I'm pretty lazy. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm pretty lazy, and it is a fault. And I realize you pointed out something here that I don't practice enough, right? Because I play so much. You know what I mean? Like on a regular day, like it won't be in the before times, I'd be playing 5 nights a week, and if I'm on 2 or 7 nights a week, and then when you do have a day off, it's because you're driving 500 miles, no time to practice. Right. I do. Recently, I've started exploring open tunings. So I'm starting to play open tunings. I'll try to spend an hour a day or more if I can on it, without getting in. I've got a lot of other things going on, which we're going to talk about here too. Yeah, yeah. But I try. So I have been working on learning my way around open tunings, where I can actually play an open tuning and be comfortable moving around the board to play songs and sing them. Like guys like Sean Pynchon. You familiar with Sean?
No, I know.
He wonderful slide, Juno-nominated slide player, lived in Kitchener for a while. Alfie Smith. These guys are somewhat open tuning guys, and I'm trying to get to where those guys are. Okay. That's where I'm striving to be.
Yeah, open tuning is good for slide and laptop guitars, isn't it?
It's good for that. It's also good for tonal qualities. You can play a D chord in standard tuning, and you can play that same D chord or a variation of it in an open tuning, and it sounds so much bigger. But the trick is you have to you play standard guitar for 40 years. You're pretty set in your ways. Yeah. And so I know where the notes are. I've just got to get cozy playing in that open tuning. And so it makes it sound way bigger, which helps the solo guy. If I'm looping, I have all sorts of tools. I've got the drums. I've got the one-man band.
Right.
The hardest thing is to sit naked with a guitar, just you and a guitar, and try to sound big. And you know what I mean? Like try to have a big full sound.
Right.
That's a major talent, and one that I have yet to acquire. But open tuning is getting me there.
So just getting the technical bits out of the way. How is an open tuning different from a standard tuning?
Well, because you can tune the standard tuning is basically a standard tuning. If we look at the like North America recognizes 12 notes in the musical scale, and we typically tune the industry standards tuned to A440. Some guys will drop it down a little bit. Some guys will go higher. So that's it. But open tunings are all over the map. Like there's so many variations of open tunings. You can have a D minor open tuning, a D minor seventh. Like there's so many worlds. But then you got to learn how to move around that fretboard and get, like if I want to get to a C chord in the middle of a song somewhere, how do I get to it cleanly and execute it in open tuning? It's like relearning a game, right?
So an open tuned guitar, somebody who just picks up a guitar and twists the knobs to turn it into an open tuned guitar, isn't necessarily at any standard pitch that you might find on the piano.
No. I mean, you could tune it anywhere. I mean, you could tune standard at any pitch also, too. We just recognize, like if we, like for instance, I guess I don't want to confuse this. If we go to an open D tuning, we're still going to tune it to A440. Or we can drop it down to 439. Some people like to sing a bit lower because of their voices. Right. I think Van Halen always used to tune down a half step. That's why those guitars sounded huge, right? I believe the lower the tuning, the bigger the guitar sounds. That's why you'll see guys like Don Ross playing Dadgad, and that guitar sounds huge because it's such a beautiful tuning.
From the physics perspective, if you've got less tension on the strings, they're going to vibrate with greater amplitude.
And bigger sound, like you've got that more, like that's a low D right there, and it just sounds bigger than the high E, just tonally wise. And as I get older as a guitar player, I'm not so sold on the flashy technical perfection. I love the tone. I love a guy who's making a mistake on guitar, or what he perceives to be a mistake that I didn't notice, but that guitar sounds huge. J.J. Cale's a fine example of that.
Okay, so Glenn Gould's the opposite there. He would play a few notes over and over and over again and splice and dub it over in his recordings. So his recordings were always note perfect.
Absolute perfection.
Yes.
Right.
But where's the soul in that?
Well, and this is what I believe has happened, over the years. And people are well, I got to be careful. I don't want to offend the country fans. I got to be careful I say this, but Nashville was pretty much cranking out formulaic rock and roll. Same chord progressions, the same thing.
Same cowboy hat.
The same thing, and people got tired of that perfection. People are going back to they want to see someone like Townes Van Zandt, who's passed away, but who had a beautiful song. And was just human in the way he presented it. There's some words on it. There's maybe I sloughed a note somewhere, maybe, but it's a human being playing a heartfelt song. It's not perfect, and that's what makes it perfect.
Okay. I heard an example of that the other day, a Rolling Stones tune called "Waiting on a Friend."
Right.
And vocals are all over the place. They're not singing together. And I think the notes are slightly off.
Right.
but it's a wonderful moving performance.
Right. Yeah. That moved you way more than anything coming out of Nashville right now. I mean,
right.
other than guys like Sturgill Simpson or what's the other guy? Chris Stapleton. Those guys are true to what they do, right? But I think, in my general opinion, is people might be just a touch weary of perfection right now. They just want to see human beings doing their things.
Right. Yeah. Being human.
And that's the goal of most musicians, to try. Like I've worked so hard in the past years to get rid of everything that I can get myself just down to where I'm at. Maybe me and a guitar. You know, I'm not blessed with the voice of John Prine or the words of J.J. Cale, but that's what I strive for these days.
To be honest, when you were coming in today, I thought you might bring with you, an acoustic guitar, an electric looping rig, and here you are with the most beautiful resonator guitar that I've seen. So.
Well, don't get me wrong here too. I'm also getting lazy. I'm tired of carrying stuff in. My dream is to walk into a club with a guitar, sit in a stool, and own the audience. Like the old singer-songwriters. If I can ever get there, that's the last part of my career that if I can achieve that, I'm good. I'm good to go.
Do it for our radio audience.
What's that?
Playing something that will capture our radio audience.
Maybe. So I guess maybe I'll play a brand new song. Right? I've got and I'll just preface this. It'll take me a sec. The old National's a little finicky in the colder weather. I'll just kind of tune as I'm talking, but.
I bet you don't have humidity problems, though. Oh, I guess it's a wooden neck.
Well, it's a wooden neck, but it's mostly what happens is the steel gets cold. There's, it's a little tougher to keep in tune. This one's not bad, but so anyways, about 6 weeks ago, without getting all depressing here, I don't want to get depressing at our wonderful show here, but so I experienced my partner Joni and I experienced 2 break-ins. In our property in the span of a week. It was 5 days. One was in our shed, and then the second time the culprits came into the house and they took 2 guitars.
Wow.
The reason I know that they didn't know what they were doing, because the guitar I'm playing right now was sitting in between the 2 guitars they took. The 2 guitars that they took were not very valuable at all. This one, you buy a car with this one, they didn't take it.
To a non-musician, it doesn't look like a guitar. It looks like a tin box.
Right. So what happened? The one guitar he took, actually the 2 guitars, one of them was a Telecaster I just got, and I realized I was starting to bond with that guitar, and turns out it got away from me before I could actually develop it. But the other guitar was an old Eastwood Les Paul, and it was bequeathed to me. I have a number of fans up in Espanola, Ontario. One of the tour stops up there is the Espanola Hydroelectric Company. And it's actually the Wadovich family, and it's a garage. And they put on these huge parties for the touring musician. Oh. There's nowhere to go. I mean, when you get out of Toronto, you get Sudbury, it is a long way to Thunder Bay. There's a room in Sault Ste. Marie. But in Espanola, they put on this house concert. And it's a ticketed event, and it's a wonderful show, wonderful family, huge fans, have followed me for years and years and years, along with many musicians, and so Pat's brother Donnie was a huge fan, guitar collector. Donnie Wadovich, he passed away, he had cancer, and the family, knowing that Donnie was such a fan of mine, wanted me to have that guitar of his as a thing, and that was one of the ones that got stolen. Not a valuable guitar, but the story and to me, it was more valuable than anything else I own. All right. Yeah. So to take a negative and into a positive, I wrote a song about that guitar. And frankly, I've only played this once or twice. So this is where we're going to find out where perfection and soul comes from. Well, there's some that say that the angels are out of order, and I think of you from behind the line of this brand new border. And when I hear your voice, I take a look over my shoulder. 'Cause moving on wasn't part of the plan when the days grew shorter. Well, the clock was slow on the day we met. And you found your voice from within my hands and inside my head. And it wasn't long ago that you lived inside the walls of another man. His generosity was a quality that brought you to me. There's people in the night that'll bring you harm, and they won't think twice. When you lose your friend to a careless man, it's a sacrifice. And there's some that say that the angels are broken. And I think of you from behind the line of this brand new border. 'Cause moving on wasn't part of the plan when the days grew shorter. 'Cause I'm moving on.
That's Dan Walsh here at CKMS Community Connections. That's moving.
Thank you.
And I don't think anybody would realize that's a song about or for a guitar.
Right, that song could be looked at in a few different ways, and that hasn't gone unnoticed. You know, it could be that song could be about the girl, could be about the relationship with the guy. For me, it's about that guitar.
That guitar, yeah. Well, hopefully it'll come back.
We hope, right? I mean, I've fortunately for me, I have a big reach. I have a lot of friends. You know, if those guitars do show up, they're so unique that they know that they're mine. You know, it's funny because I had a guitar stolen years ago from Cambridge. The guitar was on loan to another fella, a friend of mine, Ian Richardson, the bass player from Diesel Dog. It was baritone guitar, checkered plate, aluminum guitar. It got stolen. 2 hours later, Lucas Stagg, you know Lucas Stagg?
No.
Lucas, Kitchener Waterloo guy, wonderful singer-songwriter, calls me and said, "Hey man, someone just tried to sell me your guitar." We triangulated and found that guitar within 3 hours, and the Waterloo Region Police got it back to me in a day because it was so unique. Everybody knew as soon as it went up, it was right there. I'm hoping it works with these ones, and we'll see. Because again, my life will go on. I've got guitars, but those ones, that story, that's the story.
Well, chances are it's going to be for sale someplace because it's apparent that the folks who took it don't know what guitars were. Yeah.
You know, and of course, as a result of that, I should just say too, since we've got time here, you know, I realized when that happened that I had too many guitars. I'm at the point of my life
Yeah.
now. I'm going, it's time. Maybe it's time I can start getting down to just to what I need. Like, being a musician, collecting guitars is like a mechanic collecting tools. And over the years, I have amassed some guitars, and I'm realizing, man, I'm not playing them. I've found guitars that I forgot that I had. As a matter of fact, it's funny. My partner Joni, she said, "How many guitars you got?" And I count them out, and she's going, "Oh yeah, does that include the ones in the guitar room?" And then I realized, well, I have a whole guitar room too. And she's right. She says, "When's the last time you played that one?" And I'm going, "Yeah, I forgot I even had that one." So the people have been following me around here. They see I've been selling some guitars off, trying to not that it's not about the money. For me, I'm not a collector. I'm a working musician, and those instruments deserve to be played by someone who is going to play them and maybe write a beautiful song. Carry on what we've done here even further. If one of my guitars does that for them, I'm happy about that.
Right. Good segue into the reason you actually came in. I mean, here we are 45 minutes into the show, and we haven't even talked about guitars for kids.
It's been 45 minutes already?
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
my God, yeah. Right.
Kids need guitars.
Right. So we most everyone's aware at this point now, or there'll be a few people listening today that weren't aware, but we've got a project called Guitars for Kids. And we started this, prior to 2014, I was on the board of directors with Cambridge Live Music. And that was we had a thing where we would promote different restaurants and bars in the area with musicians that night. So people would have a calendar, a lot like what Jay is doing with the Social Kindred app here in Kitchener right now, where you load the app and it shows the venues. We were doing the same thing on a paper calendar 6 years ago. So then we partnered up with Bob Egan's guitar shop just down the street here. And then we sort of took it over. And what we do is we take in donated guitars in any shape. They can be broken, they can be whatever. We take them in. We have a staff and a board of directors. We have a staff of luthiers that fix these guitars up, and then we try to put them back into the hands of kids in the community who needs them. We work with a lot of the different shelters in town, the YWCA, the YMCA, all the different community services. We work with the police. We work with the women's shelters. And what we do is we provide instruments to them free of charge. These are we're basically what I call us a rock and roll blue box, right? You throw your guitar in the box, we'll pick it up, fix it up, and we'll put that into the hands of a kid who could really use some help. And part of what my idea with this is not only maybe they'll become a musician, but even if they decide they're not going to be musical, but they remember that some crazy old man 40 years ago with a beard walked up and handed me a guitar, and that person shows an act of kindness 20 or 30 years down the road now to someone else because remembering that they received that gift from us, that's good enough. Yeah. We need that right now, man. People are angry in our planet. We need to calm down and get back to life and get back to being nice to people. Yeah. And I'm hoping part of this program 20 years from now, the kids will remember, yeah, man, that guy helped me out, and I'm going to help this guy out.
It sure is therapeutic, playing an instrument.
It is.
Folks lifting themselves out of drug addiction, depression, suicidal thoughts, pick up a guitar and get those emotions out and feel better for it. And
kids who are going through tough times, we've got a lot of families here, even in our area, that are going through tough times. I mean, the kids, they can't even afford anything for their children. But yet we have all these guitars laying around that nobody really wants, and they're going, oh, well, I can do that. Like, what I'm finding about this program is that people are so generous, they're going, oh, well, I'd love if someone learned to play the guitar that I gave up on. we get a lot of middle-aged guys. This is pretty funny. So we get a lot of middle-aged guys. The kids are growing up and gone. They're going through their midlife crisis. They got money, and they're going to go, okay, I'm going to be a guitar player now. Finally, now I've got time to be a guitar player. And what they'll do, they'll practice for 6 months, and they'll go, I didn't realize it was this hard. I'm going to go buy a boat, take this guitar, and give it to some kid who could need it. It's so funny, the generosity of that, right?
Yeah. But kids who are starting early are probably going to stick with it much longer than the 55-year-old guy who picks up a guitar for the first time.
Yeah, we hope. We hope that every one of our guitars gets to someone and they become wonderful, beautiful musicians.
Yeah.
The reality is, if we create one more Eddie Van Halen of his generation through this program, that's good enough for me too. You know, it's funny because over 6 years now we have put 700 guitars, over 700 guitars back into the community, and now we're seeing that. We're getting branches all over. We've got a branch now in Toronto, Guitars for Kids Toronto. We've got Guitars for Kids Bruce County, Guitars for Kids Red Deer, Alberta, Guitars for Kids Muskoka. Now, these are all autonomously run organizations, but they contacted me and took the advice that we had to craft their own program to suit them. So it's pretty cool to see that we've gone from this to this is getting legs all over them.
So I first heard about this about a year ago.
Right.
And I thought this was like an international thing, and you were just a local branch.
Yeah, no, we were. I mean, so here's the thing. Like we started this, and I got wise quick. I went and bought all the domains. Right.
Aha.
Now there's guitarsforkids.com. Owned by some fella in Dallas. It's not being utilized, and we're trying to get it. But there's different Guitars for Kids programs, Guitars to Kids programs, but we've branded ours as Guitars for Kids, and you can see our logo, and we've worked on a brand for 6 years. Having said that, we're not a franchise. We don't direct anybody. We just say, this is what we learned. Make your own program. So everybody's picking up on it and doing their thing. You know?
And it's not just guitars. There's amplifiers and things to go with.
We've done music. I mean, we get the odd keyboard people that we can place them. We get drum kits, guys. I got this drum kit I want out of my basement, and we place them when we can. I mean, we're focused on guitars, but we get violins. We've had accordions. We get stuff. You know, it's sort of growing into people just drop off stuff now, and then we figure out where we can place it.
But it has to be refurbished. And you said you have a team of luthiers that does the work.
Right. So I've got just before we get quickly into the fundraiser, I've got a wonderful board of directors because we're registered non-for-profit. We exist. We have sponsors that give us in-kind donations. So we have Franklin Storage gives us a space. Pavey Law covers our legals. Drouillard and Sambrook Accounting covers our accounting. We don't have much. We run a zero balance. We have money in the bank, but we mostly we have very minor expenses. Most of the expenses are fuel. If we deliver guitars, we got to pay our guys.
Really?
I can't have people to go, so I pay mileage to the guys who deliver them, so they're not out of pocket. So Brian Gardner, he is my treasurer. He also runs. I should call him my treasurer. That sounds pretentious. He is our treasurer for Guitars for Kids. Yeah. He's also our chief luthier. He runs Brian Gardner Guitar Repair. So he's our chief luthier. So he decides what to do with the work. And then when we get overwhelmed, we also work with Dwayne King over at the Guitar Corner. He also, what we supply him, cadaver guitars, we call them, for his Fanshawe course. So he teaches guitar building and repair. He uses our cadavers, and then we bring them back, put them back in. So we try to waste nothing.
Okay.
And then we've got another fella, Andrew McGauley, who helps out once in a while. He's pairs or air guitars. So we have helpers, but Brian is chief. So we decide. He makes the decision as to whether the guitar gets repaired, goes into service, or whether it becomes the art guitar.
Right. So in addition to all these donations of time, skill, and equipment, you still have some budgetary needs.
Yeah, we do. I mean, we have small expenses. We have to pay for our hosting of our websites. You know, it's a small $150 a year. Everyone helps us. Things like yesterday, we filmed our documentary for the fundraiser this Sunday. So we supplied coffee, like hospitality,
Right.
you know. But most of their expenses are fuel and strings. Now, D'Addario Strings sponsors us, but they give us our strings at wholesale cost, and they throw in extra goodies here and there, so we get our strings super cheap. Those are our two expenses. Every time we do our books every year, I think we might spend $2,000 a year, and we take in about $2,500 a year. Okay. So very, very, none of us are paid on the staff. Like this is all volunteer basis, but I do like to have our board of directors not have out-of-pocket expenses if they choose not to.
And so for that, you're raising some funds.
Right. So this year, every year we have fundraiser. Now, in the before times, we would have a big room. We would have lots of local musicians come into the room for the afternoon. We would have a whole event with live music with some of the kids painting the guitars, live painting, and just a general event. We've done this for 6 years, and of course, this year I finally got together with Brian Charles Peter, who does the Movember thing. Because we always used to clash. Every year we'd wind up being on the same date, and then half the people would come down to our event and then race over to his in Kitchener. So this year we finally got the dates separated, and then we both had to bail because of what's happened here. So we decided this year we're going to roll out a new website on November 22nd. It's going to be guitarsforkids.ca. And we're going to air a 1 hour. Well, we're close. I started editing last night. We filmed yesterday. I'm editing even today. As soon as I leave you, I'm back to the studio. A 1 hour documentary showing what we've done for this year. It's going to be basically we're raising money, but more we're keeping the awareness together.
And you're raising money by auctioning off art guitars. What's an art guitar?
Right, so an art guitar, so what happens is the guitars that are completely unrepairable, that are not worth fixing, we strip them, and then we send them out to local artists. There's some adult artists in the area, and we've also got a lot of student artists. And this year we have 5 guitars that were painted by students of the Galt Collegiate Institute. They painted these things live at our last fundraiser. So as the show was going on, they're back in their corner painting guitars. Then we display those guitars through all the idea exchanges and local businesses.
Idea exchange is the Cambridge Library.
The libraries, yes, because those are also our drop-off locations. If you have a guitar you want to drop off, if they're around the area you don't want me to pick it up, you drop it off there. So they display those guitars for the year, and then we take those guitars and put them up for silent auction. This year's silent auctions is at 32auction.com/GFKWR, Guitars for Kids Waterloo Region. There's 5 guitars there, and the bidding stays open until, I believe November 26th is what I think Tara set up November 26th. So we roll out the fundraiser and the actual video movie on the 22nd of November.
Okay. And this will be a live auction?
Well, it's not a live auction. Right now, it's an online auction. So you can go in right now and bid on those guitars if you want to.
Right.
And if you go to the Guitars for Kids website or go to my Facebook page, you'll see the links are everywhere. So they can be bid on right now. We've got bids already. It's kind of exciting. I like watching this every day. We've got bids on them now. And that auction will stay open until November 26th. And then we will get the guitar to whoever the winner is.
And so that was 32auctions.com/GFK.
GFKWR.
GFKWR. Okay, I have a link to that on our show notes website.
Thank you so much.
As well as a link to Facebook and a link to all the Beard Zone.
Yeah, the Beard Zone
entities
stuff.
that are on
well, I'm always careful. You know, the thing I try to keep myself separate from the Guitars for Kids because this whole program looks like it's about me, and it's really not. Like, even though I'm the face, like, I know that I'm the media guy. None of our people like to be on camera. Brian likes to come once in a while. But I'm the face, and everyone thinks it's just me. It's not. No. I've got a 6-member board of director, and without them, without guys like Brian, without Tara, without Pam, without Paul, I don't exist. Like, it's my job's easy. I come in here, talk with you, play the guitar, woohoo, and deliver guitars to kids like Santa Claus. But those are the guys doing all the major work, and so without them, this doesn't exist.
What we want to have happen is some people to go to 32auctions.com/GFKWR and put a bid on a beautiful guitar. We've got a couple of art guitars here hanging in the studio.
I know, I'm thinking about taking them. There's a really nice one that looked pretty good in our auction right now.
I think those were painted by one of our DJs, Cam Matthews.
Well, does he want to come and work for us? I mean, we need an artist.
You know, I'm happy to pass your name on to him.
Actually, do that because these look really good. And if he's interested, man, I mean, it'll be for next year now. I mean, we're not in any big rush, but I mean, if he was interested in painting guitar, we'd love to have him.
Cam does a pile of our outreach for the station as well. So, he's right into that sort of thing.
Sure.
I'll hook you up.
Connect us, man, because I'd love to talk with him and meet him. You got some cool guitars laying around in here.
So these are definitely guitars beyond repair. So,
Yeah. Well, and that's our thing. And see, what I try to tell, like, we make one dump run a year, and usually the dump run is because the cases are broken. We just throw out the case. Everything else we keep, right?
Yeah. Dan Walsh, it has been wonderful having you on here.
Thank you so much,
Yes.
Robert. It's pretty cool. This went by
Yeah.
quick, man. I thought an hour. What are we going to talk about for an hour?
well,
But hey, man, this was good.
it goes fast like that every week, and then the week drags on until next Monday.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thanks so much for having me here. I'll tell you this, man. Community radio is more important now than it's ever been.
Yes, yeah. Definitely get things like Guitars for Kids some exposure that way.
Yes. And thank you so much.
You're
And thanks
welcome.
for celebrating the local musicians in town here, my friend.
Yeah, you're welcome. Listening to Chelsea Danfield take us out. She'll be in our studio next week. This is Drive Me to Drink. My name is Bob Jonkman. You've been listening to Community Connections. Back next week on Monday at 11. See you then.